whip it good, just like that scene in La La Land. You know the one I'm talking about, where she's like dancing and he's playing the piano and they're like, huh, tap, 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 tap. You've seen it. Everyone's seen it. Every filmmaking page on Instagram has posted it at least 5 times.
Hey, I'm Valentina and welcome to 4-Minute Film School. Today we are shooting interior Moonlight, day for night. It's gonna go from looking like this to this. I'm excited because we have a guest cinematographer. Let's go. So what does day for night mean? Well, I have a buddy here to help explain because I'm not the cinematographer of this episode, it's Natalia. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Hello, I'm Natalia Moscoso. I'm gonna be the cinematographer for this episode. We'll be doing day for night, which means we're gonna be blocking all these windows.
It's a lot of windows to block.
Super, a lot of windows.
And then how do we bring the moonlight in, or how do we make it look like it's at night?
So what we're gonna do is leave some tented windows out and have our units play inside the tents, shooting through the windows. That way there's some moonlight spill coming from one direction. And then we're gonna have some practical units play here, such as these lights hovering above the table, having a little, practical feel, and make it just natural living space. And we're gonna add some color mixing in this, color temperature mixing.
Why would we want to mix color temperatures? Aren't we supposed to always stay in the same color temperature?
Well, sometimes you do want like a nice, color contrast in your situation. And in this situation, we're in a home. So there would be some moonlight and some practicals playing, and it just kind of makes sense in this one.
It also helps sell it because day for night means that we're shooting during the day, but it's supposed to look like night. And usually when you're indoors at night, there are some practicals on. There are these warm spots of light to really help sell that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So the father is coming out of the bedroom, which is technically a bathroom, but don't tell anyone. And then he's walking into here. He's gonna open this door because it's the freezer. Makes sense because he's grabbing ice cream. And then what about the medium?
And our medium can be here over the shoulder.
Okay.
As we're catching, there's nothing in the fridge.
Whoa.
Just reacting. Shadow gag here.
Shadow gag. And then flip around.
And then whip, yes.
Whip pan. And we're cutting in the middle of that whip pan.
Right.
To kind of punch it even like farther over there for the better framing, right?
Yes, exactly. So she's gonna be basically sitting at this table over here underneath this practical unit.
So I feel like the mood is dramatic because it's at night, we have moonlight, we have these warm practicals, but it's still like a warm, cozy mood. And then you have the shadow, which is dramatic because usually the shadow represents like an ominous presence coming to get you. Mm-hmm. And then like the button is, oh, it's just a little girl.
Yeah.
I feel like the challenge is gonna be how to get rid of all these windows because clearly we're shooting this in the daytime. There's so much light outside. How are we gonna deal with that?
Definitely day for night scenario. We're gonna have to block out all these windows. 2 or 3 windows are gonna be tinted so that we can have our moonlight spill.
Yeah, and the first thing we have to do before all that is just protect the location, the high traffic areas. So we put ram boards on the floor, we have ferny pads on the furniture, we have tennis balls on the bottom of our C-stands because this is a nice classy place. All right, let's get started. I feel like the first thing we should do is put up our frame or like an approximation so we can see what we're working with.
Definitely, yeah, I agree.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
All right, we got our favorite smart assistant, Alexa, up in the house today. Why did you choose this camera?
So I chose this camera today just because it's one of my favorites to shoot with.
And then we have some vintage lenses here, some rehoused vintage lenses.
Yeah, so we have the Nikon vintage lenses. These were originally some photo lenses that were rehoused into the film gear with the focus ring on it and the unclicked iris. Since they're vintage, they're gonna be a lot softer, kind of reducing off the digital look of your digital camera. They're pretty affordable because they're rehoused and they still give you that nice soft look. You don't really have to add too many elements to it.
Even though we do have filtration, right?
We do.
What are we working with for that?
So in our matte box here, we have a low-con half filter.
Now, is that different from a diffusion filter that's like a pro mist filter?
Yeah, so the low contrast has less halation in it. It doesn't really reduce your resolution as much as some of the other filters would. So with the low-con filter, it's just literally lowering down the contrast a bit. This half, it's not as strong as like a 1 or 2, that's like gonna be real low. But the half con definitely, brings our shadow levels a little more in detail because now we're lowering the contrast of our shadow, which is great for this film because we're shooting a whole night scene where there's not a lot of lighting on inside the house.
And what about camera movement? Because right now it's on sticks because we're setting up the shot, we're setting up the lighting. But do you want some sort of camera movement in this? And is it gonna be motivated by anything?
Yeah, I think for this one, we're gonna have a doorway dolly playing here. And that's gonna be motivated by our subject's movement. So as he's going across the frame, we're gonna try to track him and stop as soon as he opens the fridge, giving that motivation of just his movement along with camera movement.
So after we see the shadow crossing, we're gonna do that whip pan. And I think maybe prior to the whip pan, it could read as a drama or like as a serious, like scary movie, especially with that shadow. But then that whip pan, that's the moment of comedy. That's kind of where everything turns. It turns. What was your thinking behind doing the whip pan, both like for story, but also for the cinematography part of it, like for getting across the room or getting to that next shot?
We're gonna match 2 whip pans together, and that's gonna help us go from this close-up of the fridge to all the way over here without seeming like it's so far away from each other. So it's gonna be cheated.
I feel like people do that quite a lot. That is called cheating, and it's a very common technique. Okay, so we are creating what is essentially just like a little black box, a little channel outside. Why?
So we're creating the black box because we're shooting day for night. So we had to black out most of our windows, but for this window, we want a light shooting through the window, but we don't want the daylight to spill inside. So we're building a black tent outside of it so that nothing else spills inside except for our unit.
So just for reference, you have just one piece of the frame and you use an ear to attach it to a combo stand. Here we have a little Rocky Mountain Lake combo stand so we can kind of maneuver it how we want it to be. And yeah, it is exactly like a sail. So here's the 300D2 with the hyper reflector on it, pointing directly up. What do we have here?
So up here we have our 2x4 white bounce. It's just catching this aperture light here, reflecting it back here for a nice bounce spill. And you'll see that on our talent as he's walking through this doorway. So we're gonna have a really nice, just soft bounce. It's not really spilling across anything because everything is black behind it.
What about the quality that we get when we're bouncing light? Because we could have put a softbox on this and aimed it out this way, diffusing it. We could have done like a book light where it bounces and then diffuses. There's so many ways to soften light. Why particularly this type of bounce?
We have to think of our space first, definitely. We're in a really tight space, so our book light can't really work here. And also, we're seeing through this window, so any larger setups in this, we'll definitely see it through here. So I think this was definitely the most practical way of getting our soft bounced light instead of shining something straight through where it's a little harsher. For this, we want our moonlight to feel a little softer on this one. That's why we're bouncing it instead of shining it through, and just has that toppy moonlight spill.
Yeah, so this is all like nighttime over here. We don't see it.
Black.
This is all black. And then we just want that light to be coming in through the window.
So we're gonna be tipping up the lights in our fridge because they're these weird lights that like slowly dim up. And they're also not the color temperature that we want to have for this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tape up the lights. These can have black gaff because we won't see it, but these we will see. So we're gonna use this white gaff tape so they blend in more. And then we're gonna stick our MC unit inside here and have it play a warm 3200 tungsten warm light coming from the fridge.
All right, so this little room out here, this is meant to be like his bedroom that he's coming out of. And we added one more light through that frosted window. What is that?
So outside here, we have a 60D playing. And it's going through this frosted window, which is nice because it's giving us like a softer type of quality to the light. So it's gonna look really nice on him when he walks out. He gets a moonlight spill, it's gonna be bluish. And then we have our second unit bouncing through that door.
Yeah, so it extends. It looks like it's the same source, even though they're completely different sources. That one is bounced, and this one is diffused.
Right.
So we have the color temperature of these lights, and it is daylight. So in normal life, it shows up as white, but we're going to push it to make it look like moonlight. How are we gonna do that?
So we're using our daylight temperature LEDs here, the aperture units. And we're keeping them at 56, we're not gelling them. And I find that easier to control them via camera by going to 3200 Kelvin, which makes them slightly bluer.
Essentially, if we change the color temperature to 3200, all of the daylight units are going to become cooler, and all of the tungsten units are going to become whiter. They're going to play as white in our scenes. What do you think of the fridge light? Is it tungsten enough for you right now? Or
no, it might go a little, I was staring at that right now. It might go a little warmer. I think this is 3200, but since we're at 34,
right,
we'll probably just switch it to RGB orange. So we're adding another MC just to bring up a little bit more color in the fridge. Because there's so much white and the moonlight spills a little bit spilling into there. So it's kind of washing out our color here. Maybe we can have one where we had before, like up here, and then the other one can maybe shine with this directionality a little bit.
All right, everyone, let's go for a take.
All right, pictures up, quiet on set. One take one, marker.
All right, 3, 2, 1, action. So we're moving in for our medium. Are we staying on the same lens or changing lenses?
So we swapped to 50.
All right.
Or to be a little more punched in here.
And the whole point of this shot is that he has the fridge open. We've sort of changed it a little bit because before he was gonna have the fridge closed while the shadow passes, but that wasn't enough light on him.
Yeah.
We wanted to use that fridge light to supplement. So this time the fridge is gonna be open, the shadow's gonna pass, and then he's gonna react to the shadow.
Yeah, and we'll see the shadow kind of play across the fridge as well, which can literally just be someone literally walking across of it.
So when we punch in for the close-up, we usually sweeten it up, right? We don't keep the exact same lighting, but it should look similar enough to be believable.
Right.
How are we accomplishing that?
So for this one, we just needed a little bit more punch from this light, but we were at 100, so what we did was move it in. We have the silk fully playing on him now.
And then this is gonna be our big whip pan shot into the other whip pan.
Right.
If we walk with a solid though, wouldn't it be like too square of the line? Like wouldn't the lines of the solid be too square for a natural shadow?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to, maybe we can like rotate it a little.
Well, even if you rotate it like this,
it might be too hard.
Oh, okay.
Kind of looks like just the
yeah,
body, since we're so like close.
When you pan it this way, your main thing is you don't want to pan into a bunch of lights, right?
Yes.
So what's the solution here?
So our solution, in order to not see the gear, is just having a black that we whip into, and then when we do the other whip, we'll pan out from black.
Yeah, because you might think that, you know, the cut will be hidden in the whip. It'll be going so fast, but you're still going into a large bright source, which doesn't make sense.
Right.
So having that black there is just, it's a good thing for the editor to have. So we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, action. And on the action, you're gonna open the fridge, see that there's nothing in it. Right after he sees that there's nothing in it, you're gonna do that shadow. Right after the shadow passes, you're gonna look around. You're gonna whip around. And then right after he whips is when you whip Natalia.
Copy that. 3,
2, 1, action.
So we have our light number 1 here, which is going to be our moonlight spill. It's an Aputure 60D with a softbox on. That's going to ping our subject here, having her in silhouette. And then light number 2 are some B7cs. And they're covered with this quarter grid, having like a little softbox over her, soft key light. That's going to pop on in the mid shot, revealing that she's there eating the ice cream.
So we have our key here, the 3 B7cs with the quarter grid, and to help sort of wrap that around front, what have we got going on back here?
So back here we have the Aputure Nova, and it's shooting through a 2x3 silk. This is just kind of emphasizing that key a little bit, so it's not totally raccoonized. It's just, so that's really, if she's eating ice cream, she's gonna be looking down.
So we have another light back there behind her. that's bringing up the ambience. What's the purpose for that?
Right, so we have the Aputure 300D Mark II. It's bouncing to the ceiling, just giving us a moonlight ambience. Kind of, you know, giving us a little bit of color contrast separation. She's in tungsten warm. Our background's a little bit in blue, that moonlight, getting the theme of what we just shot into this room now. And then to plus with that, we have the 60D playing on her, having her head have some moonlight spill as well.
Back to one. 3, 2, 1, whip, and on. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Woo! Thank you so much for being here, Natalia. That was our episode on interior moonlight and day for night. What was your favorite part of the episode?
My favorite part of the episode was definitely filming this little eating ice cream scene where we whip pan into it, the lights flick on, she's caught, ice cream drips. Just a fun little scene to play with. I think, you know, just fun to see on camera.
We love a lighting gag too. We did 2 lighting gags, kind of. We did the shadows and then we did the lights turning on.
Yeah.
I had fun. I think that this was instructive for me, and I hope it was instructive for you too. I want to know in the comments, what is your take on Moonlight? Have you ever had to shoot with Moonlight, real or fake? Let me know for your chance to win an Aputure B7C bulb. These little light bulbs that we used in our fixture up here.
Right above, lighting us.
That's right. If you want to follow either me or Natalia, our social media links will be down below. Also, please, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do so, because there are so many videos. They're coming out every single week and we work really hard on them. So we would like your thumbs ups and your bell clickies. Amazing. Until next time, happy shooting. And then he notices that there is no ice cream. Someone's taken it. Could it be you, Moses?
What? What the heck happened? We're over budget, dude. Shoot off.
We don't have money for the ice cream.